Hi everyone, welcome to English Story Time. Today, we have a touching story about love, change, and second chances. It's a perfect way to practice your listening and improve your English. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell so you never miss a story. Now, let's begin. Henry and Eleanor lived in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood in Vancouver. Their house had always been full of life, laughter, arguments, and the sound of video games from upstairs. But now, everything was changing. Their youngest son, Caleb, was packing his things for college. The boxes were everywhere, stuffed with books, clothes, and posters. Eleanor stood in his room, watching him fold a sweater. "Are you sure you don't need help?" she asked. Caleb smiled. "I've got it, Mom." Henry appeared at the door, holding a box of Caleb's old soccer trophies. "Do you want these, or should we keep them here?" he asked. "Keep them," Caleb said, not even looking up. That night, after Caleb drove away, the house felt like a shell. Eleanor walked into the living room and sat down. Henry joined her. They stared at the TV, but neither of them paid attention to the show. "It's so quiet," Eleanor said softly. Henry nodded, his eyes still on the screen. For the first time in decades, they were alone. Completely alone. And it felt strange. The days after Caleb left were silent, almost too silent. Eleanor woke up early each morning, making coffee and sitting by the window. She would scroll through old photos on her phone, pictures of family vacations, birthday parties, Caleb's graduation. The noise, the chaos of raising 3 kids, had filled her life for years. Now, it was just her and Henry. And Henry, well, he didn't seem to notice the change as much. He stayed at work longer, sometimes coming home after she'd already eaten dinner. When they were together, their conversations were short. "How was your day?" Eleanor would ask. "Fine," Henry would reply, his eyes on the newspaper or his phone. One evening, Eleanor cooked lasagna, his favorite. They sat across from each other at the dining table. She waited for him to say something, to notice how much effort she had put into the meal. But instead, he said, "Did Caleb text you today?" She shook her head. The silence stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. After dinner, Henry turned on the TV, flipping through channels, while Eleanor cleaned the kitchen. She felt a lump in her throat, a sadness she couldn't shake. When she finally sat down next to him, she said, "Henry, do you ever feel like we don't know each other anymore?" He looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" he asked. But deep down, he knew exactly what she meant. They had become strangers in their own home. That night, after Eleanor's words lingered in the quiet air, neither of them could sleep. Henry lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the years that had passed, the busy schedules, the school events, the family dinners. It had all been about the kids. And now? Now it was just him and Eleanor, and he wasn't sure what to do with that. The next morning, Eleanor didn't mention their conversation, but the tension between them remained. Days turned into weeks, and the distance grew. One Saturday evening, Eleanor sat down at the kitchen table while Henry was reading in the living room. She spoke firmly but softly. "Henry, we can't keep living like this." He looked up, confused. "Like what?" he asked, though he already knew what she meant. "Like we're just roommates," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't want to wake up one day and realize we wasted the rest of our lives like this." Henry sighed and leaned back in his chair. "What are you saying, Eleanor? Do you want a divorce?" The word hung in the air, sharp and heavy. Eleanor hesitated. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do know that I can't keep living like we're strangers." Henry rubbed his face with his hands. The idea of separation scared him, but so did the thought of staying the same. "I don't want that either," he finally said. They sat in silence, both unsure of what to say next. For the first time in a long time, Henry looked at Eleanor. Really looked at her. And in that moment, he realized how much he didn't want to lose her. Eleanor took a deep breath. "What if we try something different?" she asked, breaking the silence. Henry raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" She hesitated, unsure if he'd laugh or take her seriously. "What if we started dating again?" she said, her voice soft but steady. Henry blinked, surprised. "Dating? Like, going out on dates?" Eleanor nodded. "Yes. I mean, we've spent so many years focusing on the kids and everything else. Maybe we need to focus on us now. Get to know each other again." Henry leaned back in his chair, thinking. The idea sounded strange, even silly. They were married. Weren't dates for people who were just starting out? But then he saw the look in Eleanor's eyes, hopeful, nervous, and he realized how much this mattered to her. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's give it a shot." Eleanor smiled, a small but genuine smile that he hadn't seen in a long time. They decided their first date would be next Friday evening. Henry offered to plan it, and Eleanor agreed, though she couldn't help feeling a little nervous. The following week, Henry found himself thinking about it more than he expected. He wanted it to be special, but not too formal. After some thought, he decided on a small Italian restaurant they used to love when they were younger. On Friday, Eleanor got ready like she hadn't in years. She chose a dress she hadn't worn in ages and even put on the necklace Henry had given her on their 10th anniversary. When she walked into the living room, Henry, who was waiting in a button-up shirt and slacks, smiled. "You look beautiful," he said. Eleanor blushed, like she hadn't heard those words in forever. That evening felt strange at first, almost like they were pretending. The restaurant was cozy, with soft music playing in the background and candles on every table. Henry pulled Eleanor's chair out for her, something he hadn't done in years. "Thank you," she said, surprised but pleased. They ordered pasta and wine, and for the first few minutes, the conversation was stiff. "How's work?" Eleanor asked, stirring her drink. "Busy, as usual," Henry replied, glancing at the menu. But then, something shifted. Henry remembered a funny story about a coworker, and Eleanor laughed, really laughed. It was a sound Henry realized he had missed. They started talking about old memories, their first date, the time their car broke down on a road trip, the nights they stayed up late decorating Christmas trees with the kids. "Do you remember when Caleb tried to glue the ornaments to the branches?" Eleanor said, smiling. Henry chuckled. "And he thought it was a genius idea. Took me hours to clean it up." As the evening went on, the tension between them melted away. Eleanor noticed how Henry's eyes crinkled when he laughed, something she hadn't paid attention to in years. Henry noticed the way Eleanor's face lit up when she talked about her favorite books, the same way it did when they first met. By the time they left the restaurant, the awkwardness was gone. They walked to the car slowly, the cool Vancouver air wrapping around them. "I had a good time," Eleanor said as they reached the car. Henry smiled. "Me too. Maybe we should do this again." Eleanor nodded, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. "I'd like that." They drove home in comfortable silence, each of them realizing that this might just be the beginning of something new. The weeks turned into months, and their Friday night dates became a tradition. Each week, one of them would plan something new, a picnic at the park, a movie at the old theater downtown, or even just a walk along the waterfront. They laughed more now, shared more, and slowly started to let go of the years of routine that had made them forget why they fell in love in the first place. One Friday, Eleanor surprised Henry by taking him to a small art gallery. Do you remember how much you used to love painting? She asked as they strolled through the exhibits. Henry smiled, touched that she remembered. Maybe I should try it again, he said, and Eleanor encouraged him to. In turn, Henry surprised Eleanor the following week by taking her to a community dance class. She was hesitant at first, laughing nervously as they stumbled through the steps, but by the end of the night, they were holding each other close, swaying to the music like no one else was in the room. They began to talk about things they hadn't in years, dreams they'd put aside, places they wanted to visit. One evening, over dinner, Henry said, "You know, we've always talked about traveling to Europe. Why don't we finally do it?" Eleanor's eyes lit up. "Really? You mean it?" He nodded. "Why not? The kids are grown. It's our time now." The story ends with them packing their bags in their bedroom, laughing as they argue over how much to bring. Eleanor holds up a guidebook while Henry squeezes socks into his suitcase. "We're really doing this," she says, her voice full of excitement. Henry looks at her, smiling. "Yes, we are." And as they stand there, hand in hand, they realize that the empty nest wasn't the end of their story, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one they were ready to write together. Thank you for listening to this story. What did you think of Henry and Eleanor's journey? Did you learn any new words or phrases today? Share your favorite part of the story in the comments below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories like this one.